Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time once again for the Shannons Insurance NTE Series, a fantastic season of racing in two separate championships that we've had so far this season. And the fourth round, of course, here from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada, a track that has a very long and storied history both on the iRacing service and here on SimSpeed as well. Some of the best races we've had on our broadcasts have been right here, and we're expecting more of the same tonight. To bring it to you all live across YouTube, Facebook and Twitch is myself, Reese Gardner, and with me in the comms box is Daniel Leet. Hayden McMahon not with us tonight, but hopefully will be back with us again for the next round. Of course, Jay Kennedy on standby as always behind the scenes, bringing you these live pictures and putting all of these fancy looking beautiful graphics up on the screen. Well, Dan, Montreal, certainly a track that is great for racing. It's got a bit of a street circuit feel. It is a temporary circuit, but drives a lot like a road course, this one. A proper purpose-built venue in some respects, but it is chicane city, and using the curbs is really important here.
Yeah, good evening, Reese, and to everyone tuning in. It's great to have you back for round four. And you're right, mate. It's a cracking little circuit, this one. Very tricky to get the most out of the cars, as you touched on. Plenty of chicanes for the guys to negotiate tonight. The big one is the last chicane through the Wall of Champions there to get those cars up onto the front straight there and set a not only competitive time in qualifying, which is about to come to head, but also throughout the course of the race and make those moves count. The big thing later on when we get into the V8s will be how the guys negotiate getting through that chicane, but also making their way down into the pit lane to complete the compulsory pit stops.
Yeah, exactly. Pit entry here is quite a talking point. It always is whenever we do a race with pit stops here, because the braking point for the pit entry is in the same location as the braking zone for the final chicane, but you got to brake much later for the pit entry than you do for those final two corners. So if you're behind someone and you're wanting to pit, you are going to drop some time having to slow down early. Either that, or you introduce some danger having to go around the person braking for the final corner. Hopefully we don't see too much of that tonight. Slowdowns are also a very important aspect of this track. If you're unfamiliar with iRacing, you are forced to stay within the limits of the track by an automated penalty system, and if you go too far beyond the bounds of the racetrack, you will be slapped with a time penalty. You have to slow down and clear that time before you can get back up to speed, and these corners definitely have a lot of those. This is the final chicane. Now, it is everything outside of those red and white striped curbs. You see those bigger white curbs on the inside? You can put two wheels on those. Oh, all right, and that's an example of what can go wrong at the final chicane. But yeah, basically, Dan, as long as you have two wheels on the red and white curbs, you're good.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. It's going to be the last of the late breakers to get those moves done down the inside, but you've got to be very precise with the car placement through that section. If you get them up on that extra white curbing on the inside, not only does it slow your exit, but you run the risk of losing the back end, maybe finding someone tapping you on the rear end of the car and looping it around. The advantage there too, though, if you do make a bit of a mozza of the braking there's plenty of runoff area for the guys to try and extend the braking zone, get the car settled down, not impact a wall, but then they got to manage that safe rejoin.
Yeah, exactly. And in the background of that drone shot, you did see a long square body of water. Basically, that's a big factor in the history of the island this track was built on. This circuit goes around Ile Notre Dame in the middle of the St. Lawrence River in Montreal. This island was built for Expo 67, the 1967 World's Fair, and was turned into a racetrack in the late 1970s. That rectangular pool was actually used for the rowing competitions in the 1976 Summer Olympics. This location has a lot of history indeed. Let's see if more is made tonight as qualifying is underway for the development series in the Toyota GR86 Cup cars. Cameron Edwards on top of the standings, Dan, but he has yet to actually win a race in this category this season. 3 rounds in, we've had 3 different winners, and Cam Edwards has finished second every time.
Yeah, he's really serving up to be the master of consistency in the GT86's 3 second place on the trot. We'll see whether he can make it a 4th one tonight, or does he elevate himself that one step further and take a round win. Matthew McMillan there claimed last round a couple of times ago and gets himself down into second, and James Zeitz also looking very handy there down in 3rd position. But there's still 3 races on the category race. There's plenty of opportunity for those guys a little further down to get themselves up to the sharp end.
Yeah, exactly. It's very close for second, isn't it? We've got McMillan, Zeitz, Minshall, Seitz, Van Ree, all within striking distance of that. And, the further down you go, you see that the points can definitely change with only a round's action completed because, let's be real here. It's been a bit of a chaotic ride, this development series. We've genuinely gone into every single round here not knowing who's going to come out on top because these cars are deceptively difficult to keep straight.
Yeah, they've been very tricky for the guys to get their head around, and obviously for the drivers that are both doing the development series and then moving across to the V8s for race 2 tonight, it's the added complexity of trying to get yourself accustomed to both different styles of car. They both require different driving attitudes, and that in itself makes it very tricky. And you think with a light-powered car, very chuckable, you're not going to have as many issues as we've seen, but it definitely calls on all the skills of the drivers to get the most out of them.
Here we are then, first times getting on the board. Seitz on a provisional pole with Anderson, Minshall, Harvey, and now Latta taking up the top 5. Latta just putting himself into that 5th spot as I was talking. 15 minutes, of course, of qualifying. It's nearly half done already. Time absolutely flies around here. And then a 20-minute race on board with our provisional pole sitter. He is in the middle of a 3-car train at the moment. He's got Brad Minshall just ahead of him and Jack Harvey behind as they negotiate this perilous second chicane. You can really get on the power early through here, and it's easy to go flat out in these cars through that right-hander. But I think in the V8s later on tonight, it will be a bit more difficult to keep the rears from spinning out of there.
Yeah, definitely a lot more finesse required to put the power down and get the drive away. But as we see the guys working around here at the moment, the little bit of draft train that the guys can manufacture around this circuit will definitely help to bring these times down quite competitively. As you saw Dylan Seitz 2 seconds clear of the field here at the moment. Only in qualifying, but plenty of opportunity for the guys like Tyrone Anderson to come back into it.
Yeah, and that's something that can go wrong at the hairpin. Seitz falling to the back of that train there. I think might have been a slight bit of contact in the midst of that as wow. Okay, that is a big change there up the top. It looks like James Turner, or James Zeitz has gone to the 2nd spot in the standings. He is Quite a bit off Dylan Seitz, though, who definitely is on the pace here. 1.5 seconds back to the next car. We're seeing that train of cars make their way to the start-finish line now, and we'll see if any laps have been invalidated thanks to that contact. Well, Minshall goes across the line, sets a 59.2. That's off pace. Jack Harvey and Dylan Seitz, though, those laps did not count. So that's unfortunate for them, but they still have a couple more opportunities to get a time on the board.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's my thinking or not, but being sort of that car 2 or 3 behind in that little bit of a train, it's a little bit tougher to find those brake markers, get the car rotated where you need to, and keep it within the confines of the track as well. So they could just be costing each other a little bit of time there. It might be wise for the guys maybe to look at getting that little bit of separation and then hammering in 1 or 2 solid laps there.
Well, here's Tyrone Anderson then, currently 4th. Fastest time, 1 minute 58.5. He'll be looking to beat that here, having just started his second qualifying run. This is the 4th lap around in the session for him, and he is monstering those curbs. Well, unfortunately, missing the second one a little bit and hitting the wall, and he is unhappy with that. Of course, if you just tap the walls around here, you get a 0x incident, and it doesn't officially count towards your number of incident points that iRacing uses to track your incidents throughout an event, but it does mean that the lap gets invalidated. So Anderson, having just started that lap, that's very unfortunate for him.
Yeah, thankfully he was, 2/3 of the way around that track, so it's not going to be too bad, but hopefully there's no steering damage as a result of that little bit of a brush with contact. As we have a look now, Cam Edwards setting his time at the moment, currently sitting in 3rd with a 158.22 on the board. And the initial run in through that Wall of Champions there looking very, very good. The sector times are not too far off the pace at the moment. He was only 0.02 of a second behind Dylan Seitz, and actually just a 10th quicker through the middle sector there. So he jumps up the field with a 157.49, and actually Brad Minshall jumping into 3rd now with a 157.99. So the time's starting to get a little bit quicker there, Reese.
Yep, drivers are getting into their rhythm here, and this is crunch time now as we've entered the last 5 minutes of the session. Mick Power in the BCF entry, currently 11th at the moment, and the second last of the cars to set times. There's only Shane Newens behind him with a time on the board, and Snow Cotter has not been able to set a time as of yet. Power starting his lap. It was a conservative entry to the final chicane for him. Let's see how this lap goes for him. It looks like Shane Newens might be done here unless he can get his car out in the next couple of minutes. Can Minshall improve on his 3rd place as well? This chicane here is one of the places where it's very easy to get a slowdown. It's very tempting to go across those white curbs there to make the corners faster, but you will not get the benefit because getting 4 tyres off those red and white curbs will do it for you, as the car that we saw just at the end of that shot, unfortunately spinning in the background of Minshall. But the concentration face is on as he tries to put the power down out of the Lepangla hairpin, which used to be the final corner of this lap when the circuit first opened. But now a nice long straight, he can get a rest and focus on the braking zone for this final chicane.
Yeah, the braking will be an interesting one, just to see if he can maintain the pace that he's carried so far throughout the lap. He's been looking pretty decently. The sector time's looking very good at the moment. As you get into that final chicane there, Reese, not a bad job to steer that car through.
Yeah, he wasn't setting the world on fire with the run through that final chicane, but he got through it, which is the most important thing. And a 57.8 now. That was an improvement for Minshall. Excellent stuff. Didn't look quite on the edge through the final couple of corners, but the lap worked for him. Meanwhile, it looks like Cam Edwards has had a spin there at turn 1 in the Jazzmat Steel Fabrications entry. We have a replay here of Dylan Seitz, and something has gone wrong here for our provisional pole sitter. Looks like it's that incident that I caught a little earlier. Just got the inside wheels on the grass, bit of instability in the car, and into the wall for him as Minshall continued on in the foreground.
That'll be a bit of a reset there for those guys, and back underway as we see Jack Gray, round 1 race winner, currently sitting there down in 6th position at the moment. He's got a little bit of time to find if he wants to jump a couple of spots here, but if we can get 7/10 of a second, he'll promote himself up there into 4th spot there. Running through 1 a little bit tardy, but he gets it down for turn 2 in the hairpin.
Indeed, and that opening sequence of corners has seen many an incident, both in real life and in sim racing. Sights, meanwhile, is oh dear, oh, bit of an issue for someone in front of him there. Jack Harvey also hit the wall on my end, so that lap that we saw the start of is over for Jack. Let's see what happened here. It was James Anderson who, unfortunately, just lost the rear on the way into that chicane. And tried correcting it, but the car just ended up spinning the other way. So looks like, sorry, Tyrone Anderson, my apologies. Tyrone not having a great session in terms of completing laps, so he should be happy with his pace so far.
Yeah, we saw when he set his first competitive lap time, he vaulted himself up there on a 1:58 and got a little fist pump through the video early on. But yeah, definitely a little bit more work to do just to claw his way up towards the sharp end as Dylan Seitz now settles into a little bit of draft. This might help him just extend that margin ever so slightly. But looking at the pace through the sectors right now, it's all a little bit slower than what we've seen so far.
Yeah, you see the difference that the slipstream makes there. He was really catching up to Mick Power in the BCF entry, and oh dear, he's having to, he had to make a correction there on the exit. Power lost it in front of him. That lap is over for Dylan Seitz. Well, he is far enough ahead, I think, that he shouldn't have to worry too much about someone overcoming him in these dying moments, but still, he would have preferred to finish that lap, I would think. Checkered flag flies. Anyone who's currently on a hot lap will be allowed to finish it. We are not running a heat session here tonight, so it's going to allow drivers that opportunity. Matthew McMillan then, can he improve on 8th place in the second of our BCF and Super Cheap Auto liveried cars? McMillan at the moment on a 1 minute 59.352. He's only 400ths behind Michael Latta, so if he can make even a slight improvement on this lap, it will be an extra position on the grid for him. But this final braking zone has proven very difficult to get right, and he's looking a bit conservative actually. He is going to be going into the pits on this one, down onto the pit limiter, and that is going to be session done there for McMillan. James Zeitz does the same, even though there isn't a required pit stop in the Dev Series. Always handy to try and practice it. And Minchell, meanwhile, is staying out on track and completing this final lap. Again, a conservative run through the final chicane, but we've seen that work for him before. Can he do it again? The run to the line then. Minchell's looking to beat a 57.8. And oh my goodness, he's only a 100th of a second off. That must be painful there for Minchell, but regardless, he is going to start in the top 3. That brings to an end the qualifying session. We can go through the grid now, and it's going to be Dylan Seitz on pole with James Zeitz starting alongside him on the front row. In 3rd and 4th, it will be Brad Minchell and Cam Edwards in the Jazzmat Steel Fabrications entry. Starting 5th will be Tyrone Anderson alongside Jack Harvey. Dan?
And then we will have Michael Latta and Matt McMillan starting 7th and 8th tonight. John Van Ree will lead off row 9 or position 9, and Guthrie Van Nordschleife in 10th. Michael Power and Shane Newens starting there in 11th and 12th position tonight.
And it looks like that's going to be the majority of our grid sorted with Mr. Cotter not setting a time in practice or qualifying, and not even sure if he's... Yeah, actually, he is present in the session, so we might see the number 6 take to the grid. Well, qualifying has yet to officially tick over into the race. We've still got 15 seconds remaining on the clock here. But once we get into it, 20 minutes of racing here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and with laps running just under 2 minutes, I'm guessing that we will get an 11-lap race distance here, Dan, which it seems like not much, but there's actually quite a lot that can happen around a track of this length.
Yeah, definitely. And even with the small field, the guys will be very bunched up off the starting grid, getting away off the light is going to be key for these guys. But as you say, 2 minutes, it's a relatively long time for what we're probably traditionally used to in seeing these cars going around, what we've seen so far at the likes of stand down for round one. But the racing will be hard and fierce. There'll be plenty of elbows out, doors banging, and we'll watch these guys. Hopefully, though, fingers crossed, we do not see the intervention from the safety car tonight.
Yeah, here's hoping. Of course, Rich Barella is on standby in the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car that NTESeries uses for their safety car. And of course, Seb Murray-Westberg in the race control chair for this series. Let's hope that they don't have much work to do here tonight and we can focus on some good racing. Just a minute remaining on the clock here with everyone getting onto the grid and waiting for that standing start. A staggered grid here at Montreal, which means that if James Zeitz gets a good start, he's going to have a bit of work to do still to get past Dylan Seitz into turn one. But the first corner here is quite open, so there's potential to hold it round the outside and dive up the inside for turn two. I'm sure that many drivers will be looking to make that happen, but they will have to try and stay out of each other's hair. And these cars have proven very difficult to keep on the straight and narrow. We've seen plenty of instances of cars losing the rear on entry so far this season. Let's hope that the drivers have that sorted here on cold tyres for the first lap. 10 seconds left on the clock, and then we'll hear the revs rise and everyone get going. And these cars have proven difficult for some to get a good getaway. Let's see as the revs start to rise here for round 4 of the Shannons NTESeries Development Series. Seitz on the front row. What kind of start does he get? Wasn't quite on the mark on the reaction, but the traction is with the number 21, and James Zeitz immediately moving to the inside. There's contact there between Cam Edwards and Tyrone Anderson as they come into turn 1, but looks like they managed to stay out of each other's hair for the time being. Edwards on the inside of turn 2 will get the slightly better exit, or will he? Anderson has more traction using the outside line, and he gives another tap to Edwards. These guys are racing for sheep stations here, it seems, on the first turn. Anderson had to back out, and now Jack Gray is right with him. Goodness me. But regardless, all things considered, that was a pretty calm start. What will it look like by the end of the first lap?
Yeah, really good start from everyone there off the line. I was keeping an eye a little further back. We saw Shane Ewens get a ripping start out of 12th position. He's already vaulted himself now up to top 10 in 10th and continuing to move his way forward. We saw Matt McMullen also gain another position off the starting grid there as well. So we have a look there back at Jack Gray and Matt McMillan just working their way around. A little bit of curb there, Reese. They've got to be cautious of that.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Otherwise, they will get the dreaded slowdown, and they are brutal here at Montreal. Sometimes, for the most part, you'll get slowdowns of about 1.5 to 2 seconds if you cut certain corners. Here at Montreal, you can cost yourself up to 3 seconds with the slowdown. And look at that racing going on there between Edwards and Anderson. This is looking a bit hectic as the top 3 start jetting away. This long back straight is where the slipstream really comes into effect. You can get quite a bit of speed up with the drivers just about touching 200 k's an hour coming into the braking zone for the final chicane. Lap 1 complete though, and it is Dylan Seitz who leads the way from James Turner and Brad Minchell, with Cam Edwards still holding off Tyrone Anderson and Jack Gray, and they formed their own little group. On his lonesome behind them is Michael Latta and Matthew McMillan, but they'll try their best here as there is a move up the inside. Wasn't able to get past Cam Edwards though, was Tyrone Anderson. Good defense there from Edwards and a little bit of contact to boot. You're going to have to be careful because these cars are proven to be fragile and sensitive to side-by-side contact.
Yeah, a little bit of elbows out early on, which I'm a little surprised we're seeing it at this point in time, maybe for the last couple of minutes, but the guys are getting on with business. Now, interestingly, just watching our leading trio go down
no! There's the biff and barge. Tyrone Anderson pushing Cam Edwards off the racetrack, and it looks like at this point, Mr. Edwards' run of second place finishes is over.
Yeah, that's a big one. That'll definitely get the attention of race control there. He's got going again, but we might have to have a look at the replay if we can get a chance just to see where that was just a little bit too much of a late send there for Tyrone.
Well, looked like he was pulling out for the move, but yeah, there's probably a bit more to this incident that might become a factor in race control's deliberations here. So here's another view of it then. So Anderson does go for the dive. Edwards, from my perspective, he did move just slightly to the left in the braking zone, but that could just be due to car instability. Regardless, I do think that incident is on Tyrone Anderson. It was quite a dive, and he was the one who initiated the contact.
Yeah, maybe just needed the car just over, half a width to the inside there, just to give enough little allocation of room. But he's back underway. We'll wait for race control to adjudicate that one and see how things fare out. He slots there back down in the 5th spot. I was just going to say before, Reese, the draft from our leading trio down that back straight, good for about 0.3 of a second. So we'll need to keep that in mind for later on when we get to the closing sectors of this race. If anyone in 2nd or 3rd maybe can squeeze out that point, just how close they are.
Yeah, as it stands, it's looking like a good battle between the top 3, and I'm hoping that they stay together until those final few minutes. Have a look at this. This is what the drivers have to do to go fast around here, just slamming those red and white curbs. And you see Cam Edwards there, he just kept it within track limits. As long as you've got 2 wheels on the red and white curb, you will not get a slowdown. But it also shows just how much force is going through these cars as they make their way over these chicanes, and it can be very easy to spin.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to watch that wheel work that you get as you go over the top there, but the guys so far looking very competitive. The lap times at the moment, 1:58, so a little slower than what we saw in qualifying before, but for Minchell there, that draft working well. He's back in the 1:57.87, so almost on his qualifying pace from just moments ago.
And there's our first race control decision up the top of your screen. Pit lane penalty for car 47, Tyrone Anderson, for that contact with Cam Edwards. He will have to make a drive-through penalty through the pit lane. That's obviously unfortunate for Anderson, but probably a just decision from race control. Meanwhile, Justin Snow-Cotter having an issue, it seems, here on the replay. What's going on with him? Oh. Righto.
Is that a hardware failure, maybe? That's very weird to do that on a straight.
Yeah, very strange indeed. Maybe he was having problems with his wheel and was just trying to check to see if it was calibrated. Evidently, some further issues there as Anderson comes in for his drive-through penalty. And of course, there being no mandatory pit stops in the Dev Series, this is going to cost you an awful lot of time. So yeah, the expression on Anderson's face says it all there, really. Just trundling through pit lane, losing even more positions, and look where he's going to come out, just ahead of Edwards, who has managed to still keep himself in the fight for positions here, trying to get himself back into the top 10.
Yeah, I'm sure Edwards not going to be too happy with that one, maybe hoping for like a stop and hold given the disparity in the positions where Tyrone's come back out. But yeah, it's done and dusted now. We're back to racing conditions, and hopefully for Edwards, doesn't look like he's got any major damage on that car, but just needs to start working his way back up towards the sharp end.
Some great advertising for BCF and Super Cheap Auto up ahead of him there, with the 3 WKNP cars all running line astern here of John Van Ree, Mick Power and David Worrell. They seem to be having a nice little fight between themselves, and Edwards actually losing a bit of time, unfortunately. He made a mistake out of the first of our chicanes. Slight look there from David Worrell, but it wasn't quite enough to get past Michael Power, and unfortunately we have lost the car of Justin Cotter. And also seeing race control give Cam Edwards a warning there for inappropriate use of communications. I'm guessing that he had something to say to Tyrone Anderson after their incident.
More than likely, and the guys will just need to be careful of that one. Racing control will not want to tolerate any of that going across the airwaves at all. So we'll see. Hopefully that's the last we hear of it, but we'll wait and see. The battle up front, though, still continuing to charge on. The guys up there now have opened up a significant lead over Jack Gray there in 4th position. And we've only got just over 8/10 of a second separating the top 3 now.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good for the top 3, and actually it almost got interesting here. There was a defense actually from Dylan Seitz here into the final chicane. Nice attempt from James Zeitz, but unfortunately compromised entry and the curbs putting the flame out on that candle. Either way, still very close here to Dylan Seitz as they make their way through the 2nd chicane. The exit is so important through here, and this back straight is one of the places where the slipstream can work depending on the speed of the cars. Evidently here in the 86s there is still some effect, but Dylan Seitz is going to run defensive middle of the road here into this chicane, and over the curbs they go, keeping it within track limits very nicely. But the hairpin, Lapangla, is coming up, and this could be another opportunity for Zeitz to get past.
Yeah, definitely. Does he look to go the over and under trick? You can see them running each other out right on the road there. And actually, this might really work well for Zeitz there. Gets the crisscross done, just not quite able to get that power down, but he's got a good drive out here.
Yeah, very good drive out, and weaving behind him. He's moving around in the mirrors looking for a spot to try and put his car alongside, and that exit's working out well for the number 65, and they are side by side. That is a better run, and now Zeitz is ahead of Seitz, but on the outside line for the final chicane. He's going to have to brake hella late here to make this move work, and Dylan Seitz yields the position coming into the final chicane. I think discretion being the better part of valor there. We have a new race leader.
Yeah, great driving from both of those two. But look who's now right in the mix here as well. Brad Minchell just playing the tail gunner position there, and he is right in contention to gain another spot.
Right in contention indeed, and you saw he had a little look at Seitz there, but thought better of it. The race is now at half-time. Only 9 minutes and 45 seconds remaining on the clock, and time will rapidly be running out for these moves to be made. The WKMP trio, meanwhile, continuing on, and it looks like Van Ree has actually lost the position there to David Worrell. Matthew McMillan staying behind as well, so it looks like Worrell actually making his way ahead here, but he's run wide through turn 2, and that's going to allow Van Ree back past here. Should be able to complete the move before they get into the chicane, but looks to me like the WKMP boys are just having fun out here, all running together.
Yeah, definitely. They're doing a good job and keeping everything lively and consistent as we have a look at Tyrone Anderson here down into 1. It's a bit of a awkward moment there. Plenty of runoff road, though, just to recover that. And a hefty slowdown for shortcutting the track there, no doubt.
Yeah, completely missing the second turn, but look at who's together now with Anderson having to make that little off-track excursion. Cam Edwards now behind him, and we'll see how this works out between these two, considering what happened to them some laps ago. Anderson getting a pretty good exit out of the chicane there. Edwards having made his way past those WK&P cars there. Of course, another one of Michael Power up behind them as well. How's the entry for the hairpin going? It's wide, unfortunately, there for Anderson, but he's translated that into a good exit, and Edwards was not able to find a way past.
No, look at about 6
Oh,
tenths.
no! Zeitz took the lead coming onto the previous lap, and unfortunately, it looks like he's found the wall of champions.
That looks like some hefty damage there, too, on that front corner. Here's a look at the replay.
Oh no, this is going to be heartbreaking. He lost that all by himself on the way in. Rear end just got away from him.
Well, that was one of those key points, Reece. We sort of talked up through the beginning of this one. The braking in these cars, very, very critical, very touchy too in the rear end, as we've seen so far throughout the course of the championship. But another one, unfortunately, biting the dust as a result. We'll have to keep an eye on the pace of this car too, because that could be significantly down now.
Yeah, well, he's got a mechanical black flag. He's going to have to come into the pits and get that thing repaired, and it doesn't look straight at all. The suspension is screwed on that with the side contact with the wall. So we have lost Zeitz out of the top 3 and potentially out of this race as well. With 7 minutes remaining in the session, that damage could take all of that time and more to repair.
Yeah, so yeah, that goes. Jack Gray now finds himself in the 3rd spot. This might be another podium potentially on the way for him there, after what we saw in round 1.
Oh dear. But he has gotten a black flag, has Gray, for not clearing a slowdown. That's something that I forgot to mention. If you don't clear a slowdown in time, you will get a black flag for it, and things are getting leery now between Tyrone Anderson and Cam Edwards. They will be side by side into the hairpin, and Anderson going for the defensive line early. That's the right thing to do. But will Edwards be brave and outbrake him? No, he won't. Anderson just managing to pull it up for the corner as we see a spinner there. That is Shane Newens, unfortunately. And he was running in 6th place before that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate there for Shane. He was having a really good, strong run so far tonight as Jack Gray now just comes in to serve that drive-through penalty that we were talking of before. But we did see too, when we got through that back chicane with Anderson and Edwards, did you see Michael Power stick the nose in? He was very looking forward to getting a move done there.
Yeah, certainly was. And if things get fiery between Anderson and Edwards again, Power will be right there to take advantage. Meanwhile, the WKMP cars certainly having a good time of it there as the recovering Shane Newens tries to get his way back past. But this is the battle for the lead now. Dylan Seitz versus Brad Minshall. And Seitz finding himself back in the hot seat for the race win here. We could see a 2-time winner for the first time here in the development series. But Minshall will try his best to get past and put his name on the winners list. So how does the entry go to the hairpin? Well, it looks like these two are keeping their distance for the time being. We've seen how easy it is for a mistake to be made. Both of these guys will just be trying to manage their pace for the time being, I think, as we check back in with Anderson and Edwards now both looking at a position in the top 6 here.
Well, yeah, we're battling over 4th and 5th at the moment. I mean, what was it, 5 minutes ago we were talking about Cam Edwards being done and dusted, maybe not even able to get back onto the podium, and he's staring down the barrel of what could be a 4th position here now. So getting on with business. The gap between these two really has not separated at all. It stayed about 5 to 7 tenths of a second, and the little bit of a draft here will help Edwards try and close the gap down. As we already see Anderson just starting to weave. Looks like a little bit of brush with the wall there for Anderson as well as he tries to pick up the pace.
Yeah, we saw in qualifying that Anderson was playing fast and loose with the concrete barriers around here. And, oh, that's not a good entry into the chicane there. Edwards might take advantage on the exit. He'll definitely stick in the slipstream coming down the start-finish straight. And I'll correct myself. These guys actually fighting for a position in the top 4 now. And Edwards going for it round the outside, but Anderson very late on the brakes. Edwards had to straighten the steering out to avoid going into him. They're giving each other one heck of a race here.
The elbows are well and truly out here, mate. I think there was just a slight touch of contact as the guys tipped it in to turn 1 there, but they are leaving nothing on the table here in the final 3 minutes of this race.
Meanwhile, battle for the last running position on the racetrack. Jack Gray versus David Worrell, and Gray managing to recover it there, running wide in turn 2, but he's still right with Worrell as they make their way into the chicane. It seems no matter where you are on the field, you've got someone to race with here in round 4.
Yeah, definitely. The battle's coming thick and fast. We'll keep it on that one. There's only 2 tenths of a second between both of these two. Cam Edwards, though, has lost about 8 tenths of a second now off the back of Tyrone Anderson. So we'll have to keep a weather eye on that, and we're still sitting at 4 tenths of a second between our top 2 as they start closing in on what may be the last 2 laps of this race.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be 2 laps to go here. A lap takes about 1 minute and 58 seconds, and Dylan Seitz and Brad Minshall are coming up to the line with over 2 minutes to go. So penultimate lap begins here at Montreal, and Minshall a bit far back at the moment to make a move, but he might just be biding his time. He might be working on trying to get into a position where he can slipstream past Seitz into the final corner.
Yeah, the gap just hovering there, 7/10 of a second, but it has ebbed and flowed throughout the course of this track. Both drivers have their own little strengths and weaknesses where they are faster. As now we have a look back at Jack Gray. Guthrie having a run there down in towards that final corner. Jack's in a good position to send one up the inside.
Very close between he and David Worrell, and it looks like Gray makes the move beautifully into the chicane and past the wall of champions. Now back up into 11th spot. Meanwhile, keep an eye here on our top 2. Looks like Minshall's actually losing time here to Seitz as there's a car in the wall. That's Michael Ladder. He was running in 3rd. That's unfortunate for him. Anderson and Edwards go by. So do Power, McMillan, Van Riem, Newens, and James Zeitz there. And unfortunately, that's another casualty of this race. Here's how it happened. Too much curb. Got up on 2 wheels, and obviously 2 wheels have less grip than 4.
Yeah, exactly what we saw earlier on there from James Zeitz going in at the Wall of Champions. So this battle now for 3rd position really heating up. Cam Edwards right on the gearbox there of Tyrone Anderson. We'll see whether he's able to get one around the outside as Tyrone very defensive there, blocking on the inside. It's going to be tight for Edwards here to get the run, but he's keeping it within that 0.2 of a second car spot, so potentially looking for a run here at the later stage of this straight.
Well, the final lap begins for our race leaders, and Minshall is only 0.4 behind Dylan Seitz and has a little look at turn 1, but he's too far back to get it done. Edwards versus Anderson, meanwhile, down the back straight. And wow, look at the run that Edwards had in the draft. He couldn't get close enough to make a move into the final couple of corners, though. Might be a move into turn 1. We'll have to wait and see, but there's plenty of opportunities for Anderson to get back past if that happens.
Yeah, he's going to come right down to the wire here for this final lap now. 12 corners for the guys to get through and decide who wants to take the win here, as we've got 2 awesome battles for the top 2 and the 3rd and 4th there for our podium positions.
Looks like Edwards actually backing off there. I think he got a slowdown through the final chicane there. So he's had to back off, and that might have just killed the battle for 3rd, but Minshall's still trying to chase down Dylan Seitz up the front. Can Edwards clear that slowdown? I think he's still clearing it. He's having to let Mike Power go, and Matthew McMillan as well. Black flag we've just heard for Cam Edwards. He didn't clear the slowdown in time. That's very poor luck there for our championship leader. And I guess you could argue it isn't luck. He simply just didn't clear the slowdown before the timer ran out. So now he's going to have to try and focus on maintaining a good position in this field to try and maintain that championship lead. Seitz versus Minshall, though, on the back stretch here. This is the final opportunity for Minshall to get past and take the race win. Will Seitz be able to defend from him? The slipstream works well for the West Aussie. Trying around the outside of the final corner, but he can't maintain the side-by-side through the last 2 turns here at Montreal. And Dylan Seitz will come home to take victory here at Montreal. He got one heck of a race from Brad Minshall, but we finally have a 2-time winner in this Dev Series.
Yeah, it was a great battle between those guys throughout the course of the race there, and even throw in James Seitz as well. He had a strong run early on. Unfortunately, we saw him find the wall about partway through this one, but these 2 really kept the pressure on, and it's good to see the nice clean battling between both of them.
Yeah, the final gap at the finish was 0.5 of a second. and really awesome to see such a clean and respectful race between our race leaders there. Fantastic stuff. Drivers coming across the line now just to round out our field. Looks like, unfortunately, Michael Latta had to go back to the pits and get that damage repaired, so he will not take the checkered flag from this one. But our last two finishers just coming off the final corner here. Looks to me like we'll have 11 cars get to the finish. And as Jack Harvey crosses the line, or Jack Gray, we will be able to take you through those results from the Shannons NTESeries Dev Series. So Dylan Seitz in car number 21 will take the win here. Before we go to the results, though, a quick replay. We're going to have a look at potentially something that we missed. No, we're actually going to be seeing a very close finish here, I would gather. Edwards comes across the line, and just behind him, Michael Latta. Oh, goodness me. That is big there between David Worrell and Jack Gray. No, Power and Turner. My apologies. James Turner and Mick Power taking 5th and 6th places there. They were only separated by a couple of hundredths of a second. That is fantastic stuff. The racing was close to the end, but here's how they ended up. Seitz and Minchell over 33 seconds ahead of Tyrone Anderson there. And McMillan and Zeitz will complete the top 5 with Power, Van Ree, Newens, Worrell and Gray coming home to the finish. Cam Edwards, of course, with that black flag, demoted to 11th place after the finish. Well, that's going to bring to an end the Dev Series broadcast, but before we go on break and get into the V8 action here in the main game, we should have a chance to thank the sponsors of this series, and there are quite a few of them, and we appreciate every single one of them being on board for this series. Of course, Shannons Insurance, the title sponsor of NTESeries, long-term supporters, and have been naming rights sponsors since the series inception. Shannons is Australia's leading insurance provider for motoring enthusiasts, and Shannons Auctions is Australia's leading auction house for veteran, vintage, classic, sporting and modified vehicles, as well as classic motorcycles, motoring memorabilia and numerical number plates. Shannons have also recently launched a new online quote feature. To get a quote on your car, bike or home insurance, visit shannons.com.au or phone 13 46 46.
Next up, we have Pool Guys Adelaide, who are a proud South Australian family-owned business. Pool Guys Adelaide have an extensive knowledge and experience in maintaining, upgrading, and looking after all your pool needs. Pool Guys have been a long-term supporter of the series, and for all your pool servicing and equipment needs, visit www.poolguysadelaide.com. They offer honest advice, have a great wealth of knowledge within the pool industry, and also offer high quality customer service to ensure you understand the importance of pool care as well as maintaining your pool and your equipment. Check out the guys later on with Josh Drake getting into the V8.
Indeed. West Oz Roof Restorations aim to provide you with an easy and hassle-free roof restoration and to give you the best possible job with the least disruptions. Most jobs can be completed in 2 to 3 days, weather permitting. They don't have other jobs on the go at the same time either, so they can focus on your job first and give you that great finish with a full 10-year guarantee. They're structured differently to other roof restoration companies. They don't use salesmen to try and sell the job. It is the owners that will do the whole process with you from start to finish. One of the 2 partners in the business is a registered painter, and also the tradesman that will apply the 3-coat system that West Oz uses. That includes 1 coat of primer and 2 coats of colour from a wide range of colour options. Plenty of choice there for you. For more information on West Oz Roof Restorations, visit www.westozroof.com.au. You might just see the owner, Daniel Norris, in the number 27 later on tonight.
In the middle of a construction project in the Northern Territory and need hire equipment fast, the professional team at High Power NT can supply all your Darwin and Catherine plant hire rental equipment needs, with on-site delivery also available. Based in Yarrawonga, Darwin, Catherine the local and friendly owned operated business with more than 30 years experience in the industry. A vast range of machinery and equipment will accommodate your domestic, commercial and industrial needs. High Power NT only supply equipment and machinery in superior conditions from 3 months to 1 year old. So you have our high quality assurance that it will perform optimally under all heavy workloads, from specialized hydraulic equipment to general tools through to heavy machinery. Full mine spec. Higher Power NT can service all your plant hire and equipment needs. For all your Darwin equipment hire requirements, visit NT Power or visit highpower.com.au. The team are more than happy to offer advice and arrange delivery for you.
Series entrants Michael Gore and Mitchell Strelecki run the Breaking Late podcast supporting NTE Series. They're a motorsport-focused podcast, primarily focusing on Supercars and Formula One, as well as other championships. Join your hosts while they discuss the previous round, as well as current news, and preview the next round in the championship. Breaking Late is also running a special NTE Series podcast, chatting to winners and wrapping up each of the rounds for the 2023 Shannons Insurance NTE Series. You can stay up to date with Breaking Late on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Virtual Racing School have supplied all the race setups for the 2023 series and are offering the winner of both the development series a VRS coaching pack. VRS is a team of dedicated racing coaches who can help you find your best out on track. And for more information for the Virtual Racing School, visit virtualracingschool.com.
Turn In Race Apparel, run by series entrant Ross Thalen, is the series merchandise providers. If you're interested in any series merchandise, you can order your very own from nteseries.com.au/merch. Turn In offer fully custom clothing for your race team or club. No minimum order and fast turnaround times. Visit turnin.store for all your merchandise needs.
Next up, we have Tim Nichols Photography, who are one of Darwin and Northern Territory leading events, corporate, sport and motorsport photography companies. And TNP also specialise in weddings. However, there are only select few times throughout the year. Tim will ensure all his clients receive the personal service that they deserve on their special day. Tim is also taking official series photography of photos from in the championship events for the NTE series, and you can check out more of Tim's offerings at timnickelphotography.com.au for all your photography needs.
Finally, Prestige Cinematography, run by Brad Minchell, who just finished second in the race just past. The official development series sim photographer. Prestige Cinematography captures high-quality photographs from the virtual world, racing shots and livery reveals. Prestige Cinematography can do it all. For all your sim photography needs, visit Prestige Cinematography on Facebook. Well then, now we catch our breath here at SimSpeed TV and gear up for the main game. We've got the V8s coming up here at Montreal for round 4 of the Shannons NTE series. Don't go away, it's coming up very soon.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Plus Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
You're watching the Shannons Insurance NTE series here on SimSpeed TV. Reese Gardner and Daniel Leet with you in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy on production. Here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, we saw a pretty exciting race in the Dev Series, but now we're gearing up for cars that have well over twice as much power and plenty of speed down these straights. The V8s are coming up here, and I've been looking forward to it for a long time because Montreal is one of my favorite tracks to see V8 action at. Dan, I'm hoping it's the same case for you.
Yeah, mate, look, the V8s have always dished out some fantastic racing regardless of the series and the drivers that are running in it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the guys can offer out here tonight. As you say, about a bit over double the power, but tyres roughly about the same size as what we saw in the development series. So it'll be a tricky one for the guys to navigate. We already saw plenty of issues with guys getting up and over the curbs, not really finding their grip in these cars. We may see that later on in the main race.
Here we might just. Here's how the championship standings look. Blake Warboys on top by 58 points over David Coleman, and Justin McLean another 60 or so points behind. So top three looking spread out at the moment, but that's not the case for fourth on back. Look at Tim Nichols, Stewart, Nankivell and Brown, all very close there for that first spot off the top three. This is going to be intense, and Ash Barella and Mark Peck not separated by much either. Hell, throw Scotty Van Loon in there as well, Dan. It's looking like there's battles everywhere you look.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if the racing has been anything like we've seen throughout the first three rounds, especially in the mid-pack, we're in for a cracking night tonight. Can we see Blake Warboys maybe pick up his fourth win on the trot? Are we likely to see someone along the lines of maybe a David Coleman or a Luke Holden maybe get up and displace him one more time? That being said, we put the mockers on Cam Edwards in the development race when we brought up his consistency of P2 results. Hopefully we haven't just done that for Blake Warboys.
Yeah, of course. Wouldn't be good to have two commentators' curses in one night. We'll have to wait and see, though. Let's take another look at the track we're racing at tonight. The Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, been operating since the late 1970s, and most famous, of course, as the host of the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix, one of 3 tracks to host Formula One's Canadian race, the other 2 being Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and, of course, the Circuit Mont-Tremblant. Both very good tracks in their own right, but this is where F1 has stayed, and it's a very interesting circuit here at Montreal. A temporary circuit, of course. It's not in use all year, and there's plenty of issues with the tarmac thanks to the cold temperatures in this part of the world. And interesting to note, Dan, that the actual layout of the track has had some changes over the years, but they've been very subtle. The original layout of the circuit you can see in light green, and not only did we have a shift in where the start-finish line was, but a couple of extra chicanes to boot, and it looks like the entry to the second chicane of the lap now was a little bit tighter. Also, the hairpin used to be a little bit further out. So not much of a difference in the modern circuit, but I think this is one of the few cases where a circuit's actually improved over time with layout changes.
Yeah, look, I'd definitely agree with you there. It's kind of like a good wine. It's sort of just aged as the time's gone on with it. Look, some of the alterations that they've moved, I think, have been for the good. If you think about like the little chicane there off the previous start-finish straight, it reminds me a lot of what we see in the bike layout for the Imola circuit, for instance, along the main straight there. So it would have thrown up plenty of chaos for the guys if we were running that layout now, but I think, you know, the alterations that they've made, as you say, very subtle, but have definitely enhanced the state of the circuit.
Absolutely. Well, qualifying is over now in this 15-minute qualifying session. Blake Warboys has already done all 3 of his laps, and he's got in pole position. This is how he did it. On board in an Australian touring car, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Just blend to the right as you come out of the start-finish straight. Hard braking into the first turn, more open than you think, and on the brakes again for the tight turn 2. Got to focus on traction on the exit. Some drivers will run narrow to keep the car straight, and then it's into this never-ending sequence of chicanes and S-bends. Warboys using the curbs to maximum effect there, keeping it out of the wall, which is good to see. A little bit of a lift for this fast right-hander into this chicane, which we saw has a very interesting effect on racing. It's a very fast exit, you know, right on the throttle from the outset, and Warboys almost got an off track on that occasion, just dipping a wheel in the grass, and then down to this very difficult chicane under the bridge. You got to use the curb to its maximum without getting a slowdown. Warboys absolutely nailed it, as we've come to expect from the series leader. And then down into the Lapangla hairpin. This is one of the prime overtaking opportunities of the lap. Hard on the brakes down to the slowest point of this 4.36 kilometer lap, and then hard out onto the Casino straight. Little kink to the right here, which can face some issues if you're side by side, but it's a nice wide straight. And then one final hard and difficult braking zone into the final chicane, bouncing across those white curbs and just keeping it out of the wall of champions for Blake Warboys. 1 minute 35.16 was the pole lap in the end.
Yeah, cracking lap there from Blake Warboys, 6/10 faster than Luke Holland in second place. But Reese, how consistent did that car look up and over the curbs? It didn't look like it was phasing him at all. And if he's already got this speed in qualifying, race, barring any incidents, you'd almost imagine that it may be P1 for the 4th time this season for Blake Warboys.
Yeah, I would definitely put money on that. Warboys has been far and away the class of the field in terms of one-lap pace and keeping the consistency over race stints, though we have seen David Coleman give him a run for his money. Coleman is going to start 4th behind Holland and Smith, with Blake, of course, on the front row. And before we get into the racing action, we should clarify something from earlier. You did notice that I was having a little bit of trouble with last names. Well, because it's Mother's Day today, some drivers have been given the opportunity to run their mother's maiden names as their last names. So you will see a couple of changes there. Of course, Blake Warboys is running as Blake Roy for this race. It's not going to show up on the graphics, but a little shout out to all the mums out there on this special day for them.
Well, we've got a couple of minutes left here, Reese, before we get underway for the round 4 event here. What are your thoughts going into this one? Like, it's, as you say, one of our favourite circuits throughout the course of the championship calendar. The driving, as we saw in the development series, hard and fast. What do you reckon we're likely to see from these guys in the midfield here tonight?
Yeah, I reckon we're going to be seeing some big sends, and because the V8s, of course, are quite difficult cars to drive in their own right, I think we're going to be seeing slowdowns really affect the racing here. It's a much bigger field as well. There's about twice as many cars taken to the grid here as there was for the Dev Series, so first couple of laps are definitely going to be something to watch out for. We also have to think about fuel strategy as well. Of course, in the NTE series, cars start with 35 litres of fuel baked into the setup. You can't increase the fuel load, but once the pit window opens, you will be able to put in as much fuel as you need to get to the finish. And I'm thinking we're going to be seeing about 8 laps worth of racing or thereabouts, Dan, until we see drivers running out of fuel. So we can expect our pit stops to all be completed before we reach 10 laps.
Yeah, the pit stop entry, as we touched on in the development series race, is going to be really tricky for these guys here. It's a hard, fast entry in through that final chicane there. And when you've got guys on the racing line, it's going to require a lot of take and give from the guys behind, trying not to plough their cars into the back end or anyone. In development races, we saw no safety cars out there. I wonder if the guys will be able to continue that trend tonight, and we'll see the Porsche just stay away in the pit lane there.
All right, well, we can go through the grid now for round 4 of the Shannons Insurance NTE series. Blake Warboys on pole position, and Luke Holland will be starting alongside him in the Synergy Sim Racing Mustang. Tim Nicol is going to be starting alongside David Coleman. Nicol running as Tim Smith in honour of his mother, with Josh Drake starting in the top 5. He's going to have Dean Fuller joining him. The 888 and 999 both running with each other. Of course, Dean Powell running as Dean Fuller for Mother's Day. Michael Stewart and Christopher Blanchard are going to start 7th and 8th. And the top 10 will be rounded out by Ash Barella and Nathan Brown, who's running as Nathan Crawford for this round.
Out of 11th tonight, we'll see Scotty Van Loon and Mark Peck on the row there, and then we've got Chris Nankerville and Matt McMillan 13th and 14th tonight. In 15th, we'll see Cam Edwards, who probably had a night to forget in the development series, and David Worrell there in the 16th spot. Dylan Seitz and James Seitz in 17th and 18th tonight. In 19th, we will see Brad Minchell, runner-up in the development series, and Jack Gray.
Yep, Jack Gray, of course, also resplendent in that Pool Guys Adelaide livery. John Van Ree is going to start alongside Shane Newens for 21st and 22nd. And then we've got Andrew Teixeira and Michael Latta, the last 2 drivers to set qualifying times. Andrew Daly, Michael Power, and Tyrone Anderson are all in the field as well, but they did not set times in qualifying. So we'll see what they can do from the back of the grid if they take to it. We have a mere 23 seconds remaining until the revs will start rising, and we get the start here. Of course, these cars, once again, very difficult to get off the line from a standing start. We might see some jigging and moving around before we even get to turn 1, depending on how these drivers go. Here we are then. Wait for that exhaust flame to start jetting out of these cars. Blake Warboys versus Luke Holland on the front row here in the two Mustangs. Who will get the better start to turn one? Green flag flies and we are away. Not the best start from Luke Holland. He's going to have Tim Nicol alongside him coming into turn one, but late on the brakes we've got a spinner in the background, two of them actually. Oh, Scotty Van Loon going airborne there as the field has to compress, and Chris Blanchard in the wall as well. The safety car called already.
Yeah, it was a bit of a scrappy start there in the midfield with everyone sort of coming a little bit undone and tripping over themselves. Up the front, however, we saw a great getaway from the first couple of rows there. No change in position, but all the action happening down and towards one there from the mid-pack.
Yeah, that whole incident was started by a moment of four wide. Unfortunately, poor starts for both Dean Power and Josh Drage, with Michael Stewart and Chris Blanchard trying to find their way through on him. Turns out Blanchard and Pow ended up making contact, and that's what sent Blanchard sideways. And once that happened, it was on for young and old. Pow ricocheting and getting into car 410 of Scotty Van Loon. Let's see there what happened with that brief moment of four wide. There we go again, and well, unfortunately Van Loon, he couldn't really do much. Pow just went right into him, and that was a huge incident. No wonder the safety car was called.
Yeah, it was a big one there, and fortunately for Van Loon, he was able to finally get the brakes anchored down on the 410 and get that car stopped. We've got another vehicle around under safety car conditions too. That's Dave Worrell, so that's a bit of an awkward spot to be caught out. Oh, and again, I guess we're assuming that's probably happened as a result of getting off those curbs there.
Replay coming, and this was even worse than we thought. A big incident under safety car. It looks like Dylan Seitz running off track, and then unfortunately not quite looking where he was going, and there was a bit of an egg on face moment, I think, for both of those drivers. Worrell, I think, thought that he could just get through. Of course, no passing allowed under safety car, but Seitz just continuing straight on there, and well, that's a bit of an ignominious incident there for the winner of the Dev Series race.
Yeah, very awkward display there. We've got plenty of guys coming into the lane now to get the repairs done on their cars. Dean Fuller, Scotty Van Loon, Matt McMullen, and Dave Worrell all in the lane now. So those guys, one stop down. We'll see whether they chuck any extra fuel in these cars, however. That may come to help them a little bit later on, but still plenty of time left on the circuit for them.
Yeah, indeed. Those drivers who came into the lane will also be able to top up their fuel and run to the very end of the race from here. But Warboys, Holland and Nicol remain your top three in the midst of all of that. It seems that Nicol wasn't quite able to get past Holland the way into turn one, and by the time the safety car was called, it was too late for him to do anything about that. Coleman also remains in fourth place, but Michael Stewart has gained 2 positions. He's gotten up into P5. Chris Nankerville up 6 spots into 7th. Jack Harvey with the most positions gained in the field. Of course, Jack Gray, usually, he's managed to work his way up into 8th place, gaining 12 spots.
Yeah, he did a really good job just keeping his nose clean and picking his way through the carnage that unfolded. And we saw him later on just having to negotiate his way through that little incident with Dave Worrell there as well. So smart management of the car and the equipment to get himself through there, and a few spots up the ladder.
Well, the safety car is pulling away from the field. Rich Barella will make his way back into the lane and allow the race to continue here, with Blake Warboys now assuming control of the field, and race control have got a lot of work to do trying to pick apart that incident in turns 1 and 2. It's under review and probably will be for quite some time. So now we think about what kind of start Blake Warboys is going to have to make here. It was a little bit of a jump to start the race proper, but this is a second chance for a lot of drivers in the field. Of course, no passing is allowed before the start-finish line, so they have to make sure that they get their runs right out of the final corner if they want to make moves into turn 1. Warboys gets on the power just after the apex of the final turn here, and the green flag flies. We're back to racing in the NTE series presented by Shannons Insurance, and Warboys leads the way into turn 1, but Luke Holland is giving him a run for his money. He's trying to lunge in those braking zones, gain a little bit of extra time. Slight wiggle from Tim Nicol, and that might bring David Coleman into contention for a top 3, but Warboys already starting to pull away from Luke Holland.
Yeah, great jump there from Warboys and the rest of the field getting away without too much issue, but you're right, Holland's got a little bit of work to do if he wants to close up that gap on the back of Warboys and continue on. Further down the field, we've got some hefty damage to a few cars. Tyrone Anderson there, who we saw in the development series. He's got plenty of damage on the front end of that 49 machine, and hopefully that won't slow him down too much, but we'll have a look. Here's a quick look at the replay of how this all unfolded for him.
So was this an incident ahead? Oh no, it wasn't. Unfortunately, spinning up the wheels out of turn 2, got into the wall. So he is way far down from where he should be as a result of that. Into Lepangla for the first time under racing conditions, and it looks like Tim Nicol has managed to do enough to keep David Coleman behind him for now. And that's a good exit out of the hairpin for him, so he's going to be safe again for the time being. Well, let's see what Tim Nicol, running as Tim Smith, for this round will be able to do to hold on to a position in the top 3. It's been a good race from him so far. He's going to have a lot of work to do to try and hold on to that, because we know how quick David Coleman is, and oh no, that's unfortunate for Tim Nicol. He's gotten into the wall, in the wall of champions, and the disappointment evident on his face there. That is massive. He has stopped. He's going to have to let everyone go. Unfortunately, the curbs got him. The car was just massively unsettled and airborne, and unfortunately that has also taken out Josh Drage as well in car 888. Nicol manages to get going again. It looks like Drage has managed to do the same thing too, so we will stay green for the time being.
I must say, for a lot of the guys to get through without any major incidents after we saw that car find the wall there, is Michael Stewart with a lot of engine troubles working his way back around. The rest of the field did a great job there not to go and find their way into the side of Tim Nicol's.
Yeah, unfortunately the engines just popped there for Michael Stewart. We might see another safety car as a result of that. Stewart absolutely slammed into Nicol when he had his spin. This is the onboard view, and already tracking out to the exit of the corner. I don't think there was anything Stewart could have done to avoid that. There just wasn't any time to react.
No, not at all. I must say, though, the biggest Code Brown moment there would have been Dave Coleman as well, right in behind that car when the incident occurred, and very quick reflexes to get around, no damage.
Well, the safety car's been called again as Michael Stewart is stopped on the exit of turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe. And no surprise to see that the top drivers in the field instantly going into the pits in response. So safety car's going to have to wait a little bit for that. On board with Dave Coleman, well, that is what Michael Stewart would have been hoping he could do. Very good incident avoidance from Mr. Coleman there. But top drivers into the lane now. Holland will find, Coleman will find his way into P3, and he'll be that bit closer to Luke Holland and Blank Warboys this time by, as drivers who pitted under the first cycle, under the first safety car, stay out. Looks like Michael Power and Dean Powell will be able to file in behind the safety car, and they'll take the top 2 positions for the restart, but they will have slightly more used tyres. Cam Edwards, goodness me, they're really checking up there behind the safety car. Probably not getting much warning of where the safety car even is, but they'll work their way through. Looks like Andrew Texera, Dave Worrell, Matthew McMillan, Scotty Van Loon will take up those top positions now. So it seems that Warboys and co will have quite a bit of effort to get back through, and interestingly, it looks like David Coleman has leapfrogged Luke Holland in the pit cycle.
Yeah, it was a really good stop there from Holland. He was 5 seconds quicker. Coleman 5 seconds quicker than what we saw from Holland. So he's down and away in a 24.65. Plays a 29.12 for Luke Holland. So all that advantage in the pit lane, and that sets him up nicely. But we have got a couple of guys a little further ahead of the leading trio that we would normally expect up there that did come in on lap 1, knock over those early pit stops from the last safety car incidents. In Dean Fuller and David Worrell, Matt McMullen, all getting their stops done early on. How will that play into it later on? We'll have to wait and see when we get back under racing conditions, but it's not going to be easy for the front-running cars to work their way through.
Yeah, we should point out as well that that Dean Powell is the only driver out of that top 7. No, actually top 4, my apologies. Only driver out of the top 4 to actually have visited the pit lane so far. So Power, Edwards and Teixeira, they haven't come into the lane yet. Their tyres will be absolutely shot. And unfortunately, I think that might have been a slight strategy blunder from those 3 drivers. They have gained quite a few positions as a result of this, but they're likely going to have to make a green flag pit stop from this point, which is just going to send them right to the back again.
Yeah, it'll be a tricky one to decide when you come in. But if you're the betting man, we've seen 2 safety cars now in the first 10 minutes. We've still got plenty of racing underway. Do you gamble, though, that there's definitely going to be another one on the cards?
Yeah, I'd say there's more of a chance of a safety car in our future than not. The crystal ball is looking a little foggy, though. Looks like we'll have another lap here behind the safety car as the field compresses, and there we go. There's not actually. We are going green. My apologies. I didn't see the safety car pull into the pit lane. Focusing on the wrong things. Cam Edwards comes into the pit lane, and it looks like Luke Holland is back in the pit lane as well as we get back to green flag conditions. So the 333 for Synergy Sim Racing, you just saw him there on the right-hand side of the screen. Something has gone wrong for him in that pit stop. Michael Power leads the way. Dean Powell in second spot, and oh dear, this is looking dicey. Black flag for Dean Powell for the incident at the race start. He was deemed at fault for that, and there's a bit of shuffling going on here. It looks like Andrew Teixeira having to pull over and let cars by, and a race restart is a terrible place for that to happen. Fortunately, it seems everyone's making their way past.
Yeah, great jump from everyone further down, but we've got that black flag to keep an eye on. I'm keeping an eye here on Luke Holland as well. 31 seconds and counting. That car's still stationary in the lane, and he is stone cold dead last now.
Well, it might be a retirement from Luke Holland that we are seeing, and that's going to be devastating.
Down and away. 42 seconds, so that's something serious that's gone on for him tonight.
Yeah, still very devastating for the 333 who started in second place. Not through the hairpin we come, and things are decidedly chaotic here. Dean Powell will come into the lane, and look at all of this here, all this battling behind McMillan, Williams, Blake Warboys alongside Scotty Van Loon coming into the final chicane, but not much space being given. Warboys has to yield to that as we see that Dean Powell has actually stayed out on this lap. He's waiting to go into the pits here. I believe you will be given a maximum of 3 laps to serve your penalty before you get further penalised from race control.
Yeah, it's PK on pit street here with everyone trying to work their way through. Good avoidance from Warboys not to get into too much issue. He's got to really just focus on making these clean moves here as we have a look back at Dave Worrell down in 8th position. Up 3 spots from where he started, so it's been a good start for him. Or actually 8 spots, apologies. So good start from him so far, and he's got Chris Nakerville right ahead there.
Yeah, it's very compressed here in the field with Warboys and Coleman struggling to find their way past people. Looks like Van Loon has managed to make his way past McMillan there, and Warboys as well but Warboys looking for a move here on the 410. and he's around the outside into the hairpin. This can be done. You can maintain more momentum using the outside line and have a straighter exit, and Warboys is using that to its full advantage, especially with how much the track widens, and he is back through now into that third position. But he's got a bit of time to make up to Power, who's running out front there, with Dean Powell still not coming into the pit lane to serve his penalty.
Yeah, he's going to have to be very cautious there for Dean Powell just to get that one done and dusted so it doesn't accumulate any further penalties. But pressing on, trying to make hay while the sun shines. And Warboy's looking very, very racy there now, up into that third spot as we see him on the onboard. Actually, it's Chris Blanchard there down in 16th. There's all stuff going on around here.
Yeah, goodness me. Yeah, Blanchard's obviously working very hard, and he was the car in the wall at the race start. So it's good to see that he's managed to get his repairs done and is still going. He's got a lot of work to do to get by this pack, though. He's got Josh Drake just ahead of him, and Barella, Newens, Daly, and James Zeitz. This is on board with Dave Coleman, meanwhile. What's going on here? Everything, says our producer Jay Kennedy. That's Warboys trying to get past Van Loon, and then, that's a nice over-under there from David Coleman. It looks like that was how he got past David Worrell, I believe. So, good stuff there. Still managing to keep it clean, and here is the pack up ahead of Mr. Blanchard. The super cheap auto entry of Josh Drake still trying to find his way past WKMP's Ash Barella, and Shane Newens with a slow exit there in the blue machine. He gets on the brakes early. I think he's gotten a slowdown from that, has to yield those positions, but Drake has to delay the turn in. Oh no, catching the inside, car unstable, and that's further issues for Shane Newens, who started down in 22nd.
Yeah, we get that one back underway. The 29 now, Dean Power in the lane, and that'll be his black flag to be cleared. That puts Michael Power now up into first. Blake Warboys closing down the gap, but we'll see probably from those two teammates there. Not too much of a challenge when Warboys closes in on it. Coleman, though, he has become the master of escaping those tricky situations, Reese, especially after what we just saw there on the replay.
Yeah, very nice stuff from Coleman, and he's managing to keep himself in the fight as Nathan Brown, unfortunately, missing his rear spoiler. He's all the way down in 17th spot at the moment, and trying his best to chase down John Van Ree. But, I mean, depending on what drivers say, losing the rear wing doesn't actually mean much in these things, because despite the downforce it provides, you still rely a lot on mechanical grip and downforce in other areas of the car. Of course, this generation of Australian touring car was notorious for having a bit more downforce reliance. Back up to 6th place, Chris Nankerville. Up 7 spots and looking to improve further as he chases down Matthew McMillan. He's still got David Coleman and Scotty Van Loon up ahead of him, and those two are looking very close as well coming down the straight. We might see the slipstream come into play for Coleman here. In fact, even before that point, it seems Van Loon is dealing with some damage to his front left, and Coleman by before they even get to the pit lane, and well, there you go, Van Loon making his way into the lane himself. It looks like Mick Power has jumped in there as well. Blake Warboys back to the lead.
Went up instead, and Matt McMillan up now into third, 11 spots gained over the course of this run, so he's doing a very solid job there. Dean Power, who we saw jump in for the pit lane penalty before, he's back underway. A little bit further down in 10th spot, but definitely got room to move. He's got Ash Barella just 0.2 of a second up the road there, so definitely looking to get back under business.
That's interesting, because my timing is showing Dean Powell in 5th spot.
You are 100% right. I'm looking at the wrong.
So, well, I mean, we can say something from that. The penalty ultimately hasn't cost Dean Powell that much. Reminder that Powell was one of the cars to make his way back to pit lane under the first safety car period and get his mandatory stop out of the way. He's fueled to the end, and running in P5, that's going to be good for him towards the end, I believe. But the battling behind him is looking just as hectic as ever. I'm seeing Dylan Seitz now. He's just made his way past James Zeitz, and these two looking very close. Got a stop and go penalty for Cam Edwards for that contact under safety car that we saw earlier. It seems that Edwards is not too happy with that penalty being applied. A difficult night, getting even worse for the Dev Series Championship leader. But we keep our eyes here on Seitz and Zeitz. They battle so hard in the 86s, and it seems more of the same here in the V8s.
Yeah, these guys are pretty well inseparable and very evenly matched, so this will be a great little scrap for the final step on the top 10 there, but plenty of racing still to go with just under 20 minutes now on the clock, and mate, I don't think we're going to see these guys separated by much at all at the conclusion of this one.
Yeah, 5-car train here behind David Worrell. Josh Drake is starting to jet away from these guys, and he's battling hard with Ash Barella up ahead too. That battle over 7th spot, but Seitz is looking very quick versus David Worrell here. This is a passing opportunity, this corner. You can get on the throttle harder through the sweeping right to get up the inside into the chicane, but it looks like no driver's going for that just at the moment. But James Zeitz looking a bit unstable in the rear end, it seems. It's brought Chris Blanchard into contention for yet another position. Here comes Seitz, though, up the inside of the WKMP car of David Worrell, and that has backed everybody up behind him. Very compromised line, and it's almost was 3 wide for a second there. Looks like Andrew Daly has managed to get by Chris Blanchard in the midst of all that, and Daly's looking for another position or two here as he makes his way past Zeitz and just avoids getting into the side of David Worrell, who puts the power down around the outside. Andrew Hoffman here, running as Andrew Daly in sim for his mum. There's going to be cheering at that. What a fantastic sequence of events.
Oh, the guys are not leaving anything on the table here. They're going for every opportunity. Another one down into...
Oh, no! Oh,
the
that was close.
Just gets the nose out of the way there. Like, they are going for every opportunity to send one up the inside tonight.
Oh, this is ridiculous. This battling here in the midfield. I mean, you called it, Dan. The midfield battling is super spicy here. Almost contact between Hoffman and Zeitz, and a car off in the background. That's Nathan Crawford
Brown.
there. Oh, Nathan Brown, yes. Of course, running as Crawford for his mum, but off at turn 2. Goodness me. Good thing that he managed to gather that one up, because careening across the grass into turn 2 is a recipe for disaster for everyone still on the racetrack. The fighting continues further up from this fight. It's now 3-way between Mark Peck, Ash Barella and Josh Drake. Is that defensive or a pass from Ash Barella? It looks like a pass here as he tries to get up the inside of Mark, but it's not going to work this time. Peck will stay ahead into the hairpin, but he's left the inside open for the 14 Commodore and is on the brakes early. This could allow Drage through as well, and they just avoid contact once more.
Great driving and great opportunistic move there for Drage, just to get it in the inside, look at where those passes were going, and then pull it up nicely on the apex. But he's going to have to be careful down this back straight now. This will give Mark a good opportunity in the draft, as you see him just moving around just a little bit, looking for an opportunity. But I think it might be done and dusted as they go in through the final chicane here one more time.
And slightly compromised on the way in for Barella. These two are now starting to leave Peck in the dust, and this is potential here for Drake to make a move coming into turn 1. This is the slow-mo through the final chicane. You can see just how hard these drivers are pushing. It's insane. These curbs are definitely one of the best opportunities for action at this track, and you can see them two-wheeling it all the way through. That's one of the reasons why I love this track so much.
Yeah, that shot there is the quintessential spot for watching a V8 touring car around on a chicane. If anything, it reminds me of the Gold Coast event, but that is the best thing to see these cars up on 2 wheels.
Looking further forward to Dean Powell, who's now worked his way into 4th and is trying to get past Chris Nankerville, his teammate here. And Mustang versus Commodore into the hairpin. Looks like a little bit of understeer there for Nankivell, but Powell is able to stay behind for the time being. That's the thing about the hairpin here. Powell's webcam on the left here on Zoom, with Nankivell on the right. It seems that Powell has had a little bit of a technical issue, and oh dear, speaking of issues, he just locked up coming into the final chicane. He's going to get a slowdown there, having run over the white curbs.
And no love lost between these two as teammates, so great to see the inter-team battling. Hopefully that doesn't slow him up too much there at all, but the guys further down the field still getting on with business.
We had two black flags come in as well, one for Michael Latter and the other for Jack Gray, and Jack Gray's response to that was to disconnect from the server. He seems calling it a night now after running so well early on, and the black flag spoiled that fun for him. Big lock up there, it seems, for Josh Drake, leaving a big trail of smoke coming into these chicanes, and he's still pulling away from Mark Peck. And that battle there between Drage and Barella, they're starting to close in on Matthew McMillan as well, running in P5. There's plenty of potential for even more action here for these top 5 positions. In fact, I'll do something that I haven't done yet tonight and compare lap times. Dean Powell, well, his last lap didn't count. He unfortunately got a slowdown, of course, but 1 minute 40.0 for McMillan, 1:38.6 for Ash Barella, and a 39.8 for Josh Drake. They are catching him, and fast.
Yeah, they've still got plenty of time on the clock to get this done. If they can get up on the back wing there, maybe get that move done either into the hairpin or into that final chicane, they're well on the way. 13 and a half minutes left in this race to go. Plenty of time for this one to come their way, as we see Dean Power just having a nice run here. He's got that black flag cleared from a lap ago, and he sets off after Chris Nankivell battle the teammates to resume here.
And this train shows no signs of slowing down either. Barella versus Drage into the first corner here, and Barella almost getting a slowdown there with that curb usage, and a couple of battle scars to show for all that he has been through in this race. Drage, it seems, getting a good exit out of turn 2, but he's not able to make his way past. He's going to have to wait for an opportunity coming into another one of these braking zones. It seems for the moment, though, that Barella's got him covered, at least on corner exit. I'm noticing that he's just pulling away a little bit, probably looking after the rear tyres a bit more, not going into corners as hard, being able to focus on the way out of these turns.
Yeah, tyre consistency will be a big one as the laps continue to unwind for both of these guys. They came in pretty well on the same lap there, so keep an eye on that as the race goes down, but it is going to be a lot harder there for Josh Drage, trying to find every opportunity. And speaking of opportunities, here's one down into the hairpin, down the inside. Can he get it done on the brakes there nice and easily? Parks it on the apex, and that is a positional change, but we'll see an opportunity here for Ash Barella just to maybe pick up that draft. Maybe we'll see that move redone up towards the chicane here.
Yeah, we might. I have to apologise to Ash Barella. I was just talking up his corner exits, and the whole reason that move happened was because the exit did not go well for him at the chicane preceding the hairpin, and he's being very conservative over those curbs now. I think Josh Drake might just have this. Meanwhile, Andrew Hoffman versus James Zeitz, and this is looking good here between these two. Both of them having made big gains in position. Zeitz up 7 places, but it's 15 spots up for Andrew Hoffman. He has been one of the survivors of this race, and survival has been a big aspect of the racing tonight.
It has been. It's all about trying to keep these things clean and consistent, and pick up those spots where you can. And I mean, to first finish, you must finish the race, and you can't do that if the thing's bent and parked in the pit lane, can you?
No, certainly not. And we've seen quite a few drivers come a cropper of that. We have 2 confirmed retirements so far, Jack Gray and Tyrone Anderson. but Anderson's was for more of a technical issue. It seems that he was having some problems with his internet connection, and that's the reason why we saw Tyrone Anderson out, I'd say around about 10 laps ago, and he's already gone for maybe a bit of a walk around the house, grab a beer potentially, have a bit of reflection. It's unfortunate there for Tyrone, one of the more spectacular drivers that we see in this series. Meanwhile, the battle of the teammates, it looks like it's finally worked out in Dean Powell's favour. He gets up the inside of Nankivell for third, but they both mess up the chicane, and Nankivell gets the better exit. Did Powell get a slowdown from that? I don't think so. He's still maintaining the pace on the way into turn one, and up the inside he will go, but has he gone too deep? He has. He gets onto the grass, and oh dear, careful, careful. Oh, they almost make contact, but Nankivell just escaping by the skin of his teeth. That'll be one heck of a debrief.
Definitely no love lost there between the teammates at all. That was a great little scrap that we just witnessed between both of them, making little different blunders and trying to get the car sorted, but great avoidance to not see any further major issues as a result of it.
Well, Nankivell still holding on to third despite everything that has gone on around this position, and it seems that McMillan and Drage have not been able to catch up to these guys in spite of all of this. So there goes Powell, big lockup. There was no way he was making the first turn braking that late, but it was so close, and actually looked like Nankivell opened up the steering a little.
Well, I think there might have just been the slightest of touches looking at that overhead shot down into two there, but mate, there was nothing left in the brakes for either of those two drivers.
Oh boy, it's just heart and mouth stuff, non-stop here at Montreal. Either way, it looks like this battling pair, this chasing pair of Josh Drage and Matthew McMillan are keeping themselves in touch here. Let's see what it looked like. Oh my goodness. I mean, if there wasn't contact registered by the sim there, I'd be surprised.
Well, yeah, if it's not just the slightest of contact, normally it's a net code or something, but it looks like maybe they've just escaped by the skin of their teeth there, and we'll look to see that battle recommence here momentarily as we've got Dean Power almost over the back now of Chris Nankivell.
And we've gotten some inside info from Jay Kennedy. He's obviously got the Zoom feed up full time, and he's told us that Nankivell is not looking happy. He either punched the wheel or tried to press a button or something like that. There might be some hardware problems for Chris Nankivell, and you can see that he is losing pace. He's he's looking down at something on the screen or on the wheel. I honestly don't know what's going on there, but whatever it is, it's not good. Have a look at his last lap compared to Josh Drage there down on the bottom right. Nankivell, 1 minute 40 point, is that a 5? Yeah, 140.5. Compare that to a mid 137 for Josh Drage. A lot of time lost for the number 20. Can he hold on to this? Okay, well, just heard from Jay that we might have found what's gone wrong. So Nankivell over the curbs at the final chicane, and was that a clip to the tyre bundles? Yeah, just a little clip to the wall, and well, take 2, take 3, take however many between these teammates, Dan. That is Nankivell versus Powell once again.
Yeah, I think we're up to definitely like take 57 or something at this point, mate. But it's on for young and old between these two. This is great inter-team rivalry, and it's the stuff that really helps develop not only yourself but the team and push forward as it goes on. So this is an awesome one. We're battling over the third position on the step. Our top two well and truly gone at the moment, but the scrap for third is hard and fast. 6.5 minutes left to go, and so far, fingers crossed, we don't see any of these two in the wall, but mate, they're putting on a cracking show to finish out this round.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the opposite of a cracking show for Nathan Brown. It seems that he had a problem coming through the final chicane, already carrying some hefty visual damage there, and just overshot the braking zone and had to take to the runoff area to avoid further problems. Well, we look back at this battle for third now, and Power is struggling to find a way past Nankerville. Seems that Chris has managed to work out whatever issues were plaguing him, as it is Kansei Drifto for Mr. Pow. Held on to that very nicely. And, well, let's see if he can find anything to get past in the chicane. But every time Dean Powell tries to get past Chris Nankerville, it seems something goes wrong, and they are losing bulk time to Josh Drake, who is standing out there in the red car chasing behind.
Yeah, he's really coming on strongly as the laps unwind here. A little bit of a nice slide off the exit there of the final corner. I think we just saw another car just grazing the wall, but even further down the field, as we keep an eye on this hard and fast battle, we've seen Mark Peck just lose a position a moment ago to Power and got third position. There is nothing left.
These guys, their tyres must be absolutely gone at this point. They are throwing everything they can at this battle for third. The Black Hawk cars are just... They've cost each other quite a bit, but it's certainly entertaining for us here in the comms box. And have a look at that. Josh Drake is now right with them in car 888. And interesting to note that both Dean Power and Josh Drake, they started in the top 5, and now they're both in the top 5 again. Their positions are reversed, but... nice little story there. In spite of everything that's gone on, we've seen them resume their roughly their starting positions.
Yeah, they're doing a stellar job here so far. We keep an eye on the time as it continues to wind down, but I can guarantee you Nankerville is not done with this one. He will come back again. You see just a little bit of a slide there for Power on the exit of the hairpin. Drage right in contention to start picking up that draft, and we go to 3 wide here at the end here. This is going to be interesting to see where these guys decide they want to place the car. I can tell you right now, though, I would not want to be Chris Nankerville's position with a fast-charging Josh Drage right behind you.
Yeah, he'll be hoping that Dean Powell has the pace to pull him along in the slipstream and try and delay the inevitable, as Drake is now right on the back of car number 20. Could there be a move into turn 1? No, he's too far back. Needs a couple more car lengths to really make his case here in car 888. There's a nice straight exit from turn 2, though. Slight little chatter of the rears on the way out of the corner. Isn't going to be much to be done there, but that looked like very early on the brakes for Nankerville. I think he might be now playing the team game and potentially backing himself into Drake to try and give Dean Powell a bit more of a chance to hold on to this P3 spot. And he's going to fight here as Drake has a look up the inside into the chicane. It is eyes forward now for Chris Nankerville. He's looking at his teammate, jetting away from him. But a big red super cheap auto car filling his mirrors here on the brakes. Drake gets up the inside again into the chicane and gives room, does Nankerville, but runs off the circuit and leaves just a little bit of room around the outside for Drake to slip by. And, well, he is certainly disappointed with that. Nankerville off the podium.
Yeah, and potentially to a slowdown. We saw him run very, very wide through that chicane, so we'll need to keep an eye on that, as he's looks like he's just dropped off that little bit now. But that was a great battle by both of them. While that was going on too, there's a little bit further action back there. Just need to keep an eye on later on. But out front, Blake Warboys, again, class of the field tonight, Reese. 15 seconds advantage since we went back underway following that second safety car. He is a man on a mission.
Yeah, it's good to have a reminder that we actually have someone leading this race. The battling has been so intense behind that we've barely given Warboys any airtime tonight, but the WKMP car certainly looking resplendent there at the top of the field as we have 2 laps to go. Meanwhile, his teammate Josh Van Ree has got Nathan Brown for company for 13th place. The gap 0.5 of a second, and that means Brown is going to be getting a little bit of slipstream here. And Brown, despite the damage that he suffered, still looking good in a straight line as well as through the corners. And, well, if you have both of those down pat, then you'll have a pretty good time around any racetrack.
Absolutely, and we're seeing evidence of that here again as these guys continue their little sort of inter-team rivalry. It'll be interesting to see who can manage to get one leg up at the come towards the end. We saw two laps left in the books for these guys to do, a minute on the timer. We are nearing the end of what has been a cracking event here at Montreal.
Absolutely, and interesting to note that it seems like Brown's wheelbase is moving around quite a bit through the corners. Of course, there is some buffering and stuttering on his zoom feed, but you can see that that wheel isn't quite fixed down. That might be introducing a couple of issues there for the number 86, but we'll have to wait and see. Pit lane penalty, meanwhile, for car number 73. That's Shane Newens for not holding his brakes. Seems an incident that we may or may not have missed, where Newens did not hold his brakes and might have caused a further incident from that. But either way, all the way out front, where he is used to, is Blake Warboys now making his way around the final half of this lap here at Montreal, and well, his win record remains 100% this season. We'll check out what happened with Newens before we go to the finish, and well, Newens just spinning there in the first couple of turns and catching the car of Luke Holland coming into that corner, and that's one of the places where, yeah, you should hold the brakes. Warboys, did he get a slowdown there on the final lap, I wonder? He's just, seems that he's good, but, well, whatever the issue was there for Warboys, he doesn't have to worry about it at all, because he is in excess of 16 seconds ahead of P2. Final couple of corners then to the finish. What a masterclass drive once again from our championship leader. Blake Warboys is the winner of round 4 of the Shannons NTE series for 2023.
Yeah, cracking job there for him. Josh Drage now gets himself into that third position to try and hold off. He's got ahead of Dean Fuller there. That was down towards the final chicane, and we'll see him come across the line. Dave Coleman, Mr. Consistency. This is the third P2 for him in the top, well, the first 4 rounds of this championship. So doing a cracking job, and Josh Drage now to get across the line there in third.
Yeah, great drive from Josh Drake, and also to Dean Power as well, to overcome that penalty that he was given and still finish in the top 4 in spite of everything that went on. Meanwhile, WKMP teammates, we have John Van Ree and Nathan Brown here. Van Ree running off the track at the chicane, but stay with it, because Brown hits the wall on the exit of the chicane and they go side by side into the hairpin. Van Ree cleared the slowdown, and oh dear, it's continuing on. I mean, we focused on the Black Hawk battle for the teammates, but it seems WKNP are giving them a run for their money here. Jay's telling us to keep watching, just wait. What on earth has happened? Jay says, I don't know, but John Van Ree hasn't finished and his car has stopped. What happened here at the final chicane? Van Ree getting up the inside of Brown and loses it on the way into the corner. And that might just let Luke Holland through. In fact, it did. Holland crosses the line in 14th place there, after starting in second. And we do have a car that stopped on the last lap. It looks like it might be Scotty Van Loon.
Yeah, 410 there. That was a car we saw having issues early on in the race, and back underway, but looks like she's dead sick there, no fuel.
Such a shame there for Mr. Van Loon. Unfortunately for him, he found a safe place to pull it over, but will not take the checkered flag. So those are the race results then. Blake Warboys taking the win once again here, with David Coleman another strong finish in the Fishy Motorsports 640. Drage and Powell top 4, with Chris Nankerville still staying in the top 5 after starting 13th. That was a stellar drive there from Nankerville, all things considered. Ash Barella will finish ahead of Matthew McMillan, and Chris Blanchard finishes where he started in 8th, despite finding the wall off the race start. Mark Peck will finish in 9th. That's another good drive there, with James Zeitz rounding out the top 10.
Getting home in 11th, we saw Andrew Hoffman. Dylan Seitz there down in 12th. Nathan Brown coming home in 13th tonight. Luke Holland, after his issues early on, brings that car home in 14th, followed by John Van Ree, who we saw getting across the line after his little spin. Brad Minchell comes home in 16th tonight. A nice solid drive for him. followed by Mick Power, Tim Nichols, and the first of our lap down cars, we saw Scotty Van Loon, who unfortunately wasn't able to get that car home, the 410 dead stick on the last lap there, and then David Worrell coming home in at 20th position.
Joining them a lap down was Shane Newens, Michael Stewart, Cam Edwards, and Michael Latter. And 3 of those guys receiving penalties as part of a very torrid race for quite a few drivers. Andrew Teixeira, 2 laps down. And unfortunately, Jack Gray and Tyrone Anderson did not make it to the finish. But 2 retirements, considering everything that happened in this race. I think a pretty good run, all things considered. Blake Warboys celebrating his victory now, and that was a fantastic drive, to be sure, for our championship leader, and that championship lead will be kept as we now bring him in for a chat. Welcome, Blake. What a fantastic drive once again. You must be very happy with how that turned out for you, but there was quite a bit of work to do to get there, considering all the on-track chaos.
Yeah, it was a bit of work. This track usually brings itself to a few incidents. I've actually been in a race, I think it was a 40-lap race, and we only got really 6 or 7 laps of actually racing time. The rest of it was safety cars, so yeah, definitely needed to work for it a bit more that time, which was good. It's good to had some good battles coming back through, which was good fun. So yeah, really enjoyed it.
It was a very difficult track here for slowdowns. I mean, you've had plenty of experience racing this car at this track in both this series and others as well. You know, trying to keep the car within the track limits, very challenging here.
Oh, it sure is. Like, it's just, yeah, depending on the angle you sometimes hit the curbs, just makes that wheel just go slightly over the white line that little bit too far, and yeah, it can land you with especially in some of the chicanes, like a 2.5 second slowdown. So it's quite brutal. It's definitely been better in the last few updates, but still, yeah, a lot of practice needed if you want to be jumping those curbs right and finding that little bit of extra time.
Yeah, indeed. Well, regardless, you did manage to avoid that for the most part, and coming into the last couple of rounds of this championship, it seems that lead is almost unassailable, but I'm assuming you're still going to be giving it 100%.
Oh yeah, for sure. Any series I take part in, I try to give it 100% where I can, so definitely will. It's good to see that I think we got 4 or 5 cars in the top 8 for the team as well, which is a great result, and Joshy in 3rd place, which is awesome for the team. So big things coming, so yeah, let's see how the rest of the season goes.
Excellent stuff. Anyone else you'd like to thank before we let you go, Blake?
To the team, WKMP Sim Sports, forever growing, forever improving with our speed, which is good to see. Wodonga Carts and Parts, Super Cheap Auto, Rebel Sports, BCF, MacPack, Pool Guys Adelaide, Barella Cabinets, Bay 21 Coffee Beans, LCG Images, and Dave 37 Racing. Great to have all those partners on board for this year and all these seasons.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Blake Warboys. Another win on the board for the number 63, and another 2nd place on the board for number 640. David Coleman stood by with Daniel Lee.
Dave Coleman, congratulations on another podium finish tonight. P2 again, mate, making a bit of a habit of getting the car back in that 2nd spot. 3 out of the first 4 races we've seen you on 2nd position, but your night was a bit of a challenge. You caught yourself in a few little moments, but I think we've dubbed you Mr. Avoidance after a few very close moments out on track tonight.
Yeah, the one with I think it was Michael Stewart, or I can't remember who it was in front of me. I seen it happening. I seen him pinch a brake on the entry, so I kind of backed out a little bit because like I'd been making that mistake all practice into that corner, and I'm actually a bit disappointed, to be honest, because the 2nd restart I got tangled up with another car and I haven't bent steering for the rest of the race. So it was only like the slightest touch, which I think was a bit of net code. So I just couldn't turn left that well. So it was a bit disappointing, but I'll take P2.
Well, it's a good haul of points, and it keeps you well in contention as we go through the last couple of rounds of the championship. What do you got to do to get that last step on the ladder and knock Blake off the top?
Oh, I think I need him off the race, to be honest. If it's a flowing track like Sandown, like even here, Hopefully Chicago seem to do pretty well. I think that might be the one. But I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself. It just is what it is. But if we could race at Sandown again, that'd be nice.
Definitely, mate. No, look, you're doing a cracking job out there for yourself and the Fishy team, and another strong result for you tonight. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give thanks to?
I better thank all the sponsors. I thank all the boys from Fishy, West End Motor Group, Infinity Designs, Precision Sim Training, DC Shades, Relax Marine and Game Fishing, Adrenaline Images, and Battery Warehouse, Airlie Beach. And that's all. And thanks heaps for all the work you guys are doing.
Congratulations, mate, and we'll look to see you out on track next round.
Thanks, boys. Have a good night.
Yeah, awesome result there for David Coleman, and also a fantastic run for Josh Drage as well, who joins us in car 888. Third place for you, Josh, here. You definitely had to work for that, though. It was quite a run through.
Yeah, I was quite happy considering I was in the fence lap 3 or 4, and if there was no safety car, I think I would be nowhere.
Yeah, the safety car was definitely the defining factor of the night. We had 2 of them, and of course that was a great opportunity for everyone to come into the pits and grab that extra fuel they needed to make it to the finish. But of course that meant that your tyres might have been a little bit more shot than they would be otherwise. How did you cope with that?
There was a period there where I said to Ash, I was behind him, I was like, I'm not passing you, I'm just saving the tyres. And then with 10 minutes to go, got past him, and everyone else was struggling, so I passed him and got the 3rd place in the last lap.
Well, a very good finish for you there in that WKMP entry. It's been a good run for WKMP Sim Sports in this league, and I suppose the momentum should continue. Bathurst is the next round, and what are your thoughts going into that round?
Usually alright at Bathurst, but so is everyone else, so probably still end up where I should be, I guess. And then you get some of the people down the bottom of the list who, with respect, turn up at the top because they're done many laps at the track. So see how we go.
Yeah, we'll see how we go indeed. 2 weeks until we go to Bathurst, and hopefully we get another chance to chat to you, Josh. Anyone that you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Just the whole team. I was going to be one of those guys that wasn't going to finish the race, and they said, no, stay out, and ended up 3rd, so can't complain.
Definitely not. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Josh, and definitely enjoy that podium celebration. Well, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight, Daniel. Of course, we will be able to catch next round of the Shannons NTESeries from Mount Panorama from 7 p.m. Australian Eastern. And I mean, every time I go to Bathurst, I think, what can I say about this track that I haven't already said? It's a legend for a reason.
Yeah, look, it's Australia's circuit of circuits, isn't it? It's a great challenge, regardless of how many laps you've done around there. Everything is different at each point in time, and if anything, like what we've seen so far over the course of this championship, we see at Bathurst, we're in for another outstanding race. As Josh said, we've got a few Bathurst specialists out there, and we well and truly could see a bit of a shake-up come the top 3 at the end of that one.
Yeah, we can expect quite a few incidents as well with how much the mountain bites. Well, thanks very much once again to Shannons Insurance and all of our series partners here at the Shannons NTESeries. And thank you to everyone who tuned in to the broadcast across YouTube, Facebook and Twitch. And definitely consider subscribing to us on SimSpeed TV on YouTube if you haven't already. And we are SimSpeed TV on Twitter, SimSpeed Esports Network on Facebook if you want to follow us on those social platforms. I'm Reese Gardner. It was Daniel Leet alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy handling everything behind the scenes and bringing you these live pictures. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, we say bye for now, but certainly not forever.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.